This is going to be a rant about corporatism. Corporatism' main objective is to make a profit. They don't care if they turn the planet Earth into a wasteland, if it means they are making a profit. And then you would ask, what's the point in making a profit if you then have no place to spend it? Yeah, if everything's turned into a wasteland, what's the point? Power, maybe? Greed, insanity. Their god is money or power, the god of power. Money is just a tool to achieve power. The more money they have, the more people they will control. Then they go about the world instead of doing the right thing. No, they just continue doing the same strategy, which is make profit, make profit, make profit. It doesn't make any sense. The Windows Zero guy comes to mind. And there are many, many others like that one. The Soros guy and whatever. There's so many. Instead of using that wealth to make the world a better place, no, they just use it to get more power, to get more money. Eventually, we arrive at a situation that there's nothing left of interest that money can buy. For instance, automobiles are getting very, very mediocre. Of course, because they are all being built in that place, in that country, that people can't really say, but the concentration of industry in that country is an anomaly. It is. It should be spreaded around the world and well regulated, for environmental concerns, but they don't care about environmental concerns. These people are phonies. What's end up doing, they fake everything. They fake everything. You know why they fake everything? Because when you have a totalitarian leader and he says, just for example, you need 4 buckets to make a cake, just a rough analogy. But the leader comes along and says, people, we're going to do this cake with only 2 buckets. And people answers, yes, leader, we'll do it. And they will arrive at the end of the, building with only 2 buckets used. And everybody's happy. Everybody met the expectations because the leader is never wrong, you know. The leader is never wrong. And this is especially in collective groups, in people who work in the collective, with the collective, people who have abandoned individuality and gave all to the collective. Yes, they have no other choice. And the leader is always right. So that's why they fake everything. Yes. So I wouldn't believe anything they say because they've been wrongly calling, they've given the wrong appellation to this new heist, this new hoax called AI. It's not intelligent at all. It's just another hoax. Everything they've been doing so far and everything they've been telling so far, what they're capable of, what it's doing, is just to capture your imagination. Don't believe anything. It's a hoax. What's its purpose? Well, no accountability. That's what they want. Ultimate no accountability. That's what they want. When people ask, we're starving. Yeah. What's going on? This is not fair. Let me check the computer. Oh, computer says no. It's not us, it's the computer. Creating religions around the computers, giving it weird magical powers. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. They're just trying to capture your imagination. Don't buy into it. Now, I was reading on another, I was reading this small article, this journalist I follow, and he wrote about the emissions of gases. Yeah. And it seems that the gas is liberated by the digestive system of animals, of people, of everybody. You know, these gases that are liberated are actually part of a circle, because plants and trees, they eat those gases. They will gladly digest them. And the more of those gases exist, the more the plants have to eat. It's as simple as that. It's all part of one, cosmic harmony. But they had to demonize the animals. Totalitarian, they hate animals. In the beginning, some 200 years ago, they figured we have to take away power from the farmers. Farmers was too powerful. Farmers would stop working and everybody would starve. They would easily bend the authorities to their will. The building of syndicates and other um, uh, institutions even bring more power to the people. So they had to find ways to destroy them. So all politicians, which they are all totalitarian nowadays, there's no difference between them, hate farmers, and they hate the working class. Yeah, they hate them. That's why they allowed for all factories to migrate towards that country. They just because they hate them. The people had too much power and they were too much um, comfortable. And for some time, I would say in the 80s, in the 70s, around here at least, things was working smoothly. But they wanted things to change. Yeah, they wanted things to change. And so the gases are good for plants and trees. So what causes or may cause some effet de serre? Was it called in English? Greenhouse gases. There you go. What's it called? What may cause? May cause, yeah. It's of course industry, factories, because they are, expelling tons and tons of minerals and chemicals into the air, into the atmosphere. And of course, the engine of a vehicle. When you have trillions of engines, blowing out gas, of course, it's an anomaly. It never happened before. It's an anomaly. So if there's a greenhouse effect, it will be in cities. It will be around cities where these things are concentrated. Around the farm areas, yes, away from the cities, that doesn't happen. Yeah. So it, coincidentally, oh, how do you say that? Coincidence or coincidentally, that's where they put their measurements. Fake, they're all fake. Their measurements, their tools, they're all fake. They put them in areas in which there are no trees. So the temperature is way bigger or upper than in the countryside. Of course it is. Or they put it in the, near an airport. It's nothing but concrete. There's no trees, no nothing. So yeah, temperature rises a bit more because plants and trees absorb temperature. So it's logic that they're not put their measurement tools around those places. So they put them in cities, which pollution is more concentrated, or around airports and stuff like that, or even around the AC vent. They will put them right next to it. All those measurements they're all fake. They're all clearly manipulated, and some of them are actually deactivated for a long time. Yeah, the decades ago they don't work anymore, but they are still receiving data. How is that possible? They have some algorithm in the background just feeding them bullshit. That's why they love the digital so much. It's good to gaslight. The solution, if you have a culture that has a concentration of people in city, you have to, I mean, if I was a dictator, I would say from now on, you can't build above 3 stores high. And that's it. That would force the population to go horizontal instead of going vertical. If you go horizontal, the so-called warming will disappear. You have to go horizontal. You have to spread the population throughout the land. People nowadays are concentrated around the coast and around cities. The rest is just empty. The rest is wilderness. And with the destruction of agriculture, I don't know who's going to take care of those places. So when you do that, wildfires will become a thing because nobody's around to take care of the land. That's the main problem around here where I live right now. Uh, some 40 years ago, people would actually fight each other for the right to extract resources from the forests. Nowadays, everybody abandoned the forests and they are living in cities. So every 5 years or so, there's one big fire that levels everything because nobody's around to take care of it. All the so-called projects to prevent fires, they don't work because, like any technocrat, they think throwing money at the problem is going to fix it. No, it's going to make it worse. It's going to create a vicious circle of grifters. They're just going to take the money and never take care of the problem. They know exactly what they're doing. Anyway, so So what may cause, changes in temperature is the engines of cars and concentration around cities. If you plant trees, the temperature eventually and absolutely will go down, because trees absorb, the heat. It's as simple as that. There's some areas, these so-called, um, uh, ambialist, the people of the ambient. I'm sorry, I'm always mixing language. The activists, for the ambient. How do you say that in English? Come on, they build trees out of metal, and I'm like, what? There are some areas I don't know where now that they've replaced the traditional trees with metal trees. And they said, oh, it's to fight the rise of temperatures. And that's exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. Inside those metal trees, they actually have 5G towers, to disguise, in disguise, basically. It's such a gaslight, you know. So, so in conclusion, yes, there might be, changes in temperature, but because there's a lack of green, lack of trees and grass, and there's a high concentration of what they call fossil fuels burning, which they are not fossil at all. That's another hoax. That's another hoax they come up at, in those Switzerland meetings that they had to come up. They said it was a fossil fuel in order to induce uh, uh, um, the idea that it was a limited source, scarcity. There you go. They wanted to induce the idea of scarcity, so they call it a fossil fuel. It indirectly means if the fossil, gets used, then there's no more. So, it's just a sleight of hand, gaslight. But you can still continue, burning these fossil fuels. But I would, I don't know, I would be careful about this thing, fossil fuel, um, because it is. I I was listening to this, contractor. He had a company that extracted this black thing from the earth, and he said, everything we don't know about this thing. We don't know almost nothing about it. He said, if I extract this thing from this well and it goes dry, he says, in 5 years it will be full again. We just don't know where it comes from. Yeah, that's the secret. And we don't have zero. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody wants to study it. They're just using it, and that's it. Who cares about the consequences? And even if there was someone, talking about facts, nobody would listen to, because in the minds of industry, right, nothing matters except power and money. They will turn the whole world into a wasteland if it feeds their little demon, which is a demon, this eternal seek of power, and it's a demon. It's they are completely controlled by their emotions. Yeah, that's what narcissist, psycho, type of personality are. They are completely at the mercy of the most, hateful feelings and emotions. They will do anything to keep feeling those things, even if it means to destroy the whole world. So common sense is not their forte at all. Okay, I've been talking for 17 minutes. There was another thing I wanted to say, because we've been going through winter, winter, exactly as I remember. It's always been like this. It's rainy, it's windy, and it's cold. I mean, it's winter, right? And sometimes the wind destroys things, the rooftop of some old houses, because they are old, when things go into, in the minds of the npcs, they think things last forever. No, they don't. They have an expiration date, and they get used, and they get old, and eventually they need repairs. But in the minds of the npcs, things don't need repairing. And so the trees also fell because the wind, just blew those trees that had weak roots, or they were old and they literally broke because they were old, or not. In some flat areas, those are the most dangerous areas for the wind. The wind will level everything, trees, everything. So there's been a lot of damage. The funny thing is, not so long ago, I mean, I remember this happening. People, out of their own, out of their own heart, out of their own self um, uh, agency, they will get out of the house with a chainsaw and they would clean the streets. They wouldn't need to call anybody. Yeah. Likewise, for the fixing of this or that or the other. People had skills. People knew how to fix these things, and they had this spirit of community in which they would ask their neighbors, do you need a hand? Is everything okay? That is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. This community spirit, skills, doesn't exist. Nobody has a chainsaw, nobody has a shed anymore. Everybody lives in a box, yeah, and they are all dependent on electricity. Yeah, they don't have a cellar full of food, that non-expirable food, food that lasts months or years. They don't have that. They're not ready for anything. And their income, their cash is all digital. They don't have some money, under a pillow or inside a box, to last, in case of an emergency. They have zero prepared, zero situational awareness. They have zero everything. And this is how the system wants you. This is how the totalitarian corporatism wants you, completely dependent. So the wind did some damage, and nobody's fixing anything. Nobody's getting out of the house, climbing up the tree and fixing the tiles. You know what they're hoping? For government to do it. Nobody's moving anything. And it's funny, if you try to do something that you actually be, looked down upon. You'll be looked down upon if you try to move something, if you try to help or do something. Everybody's just, oh, the government will do it. It's in these past 40 years, education has been a priority, of the government. Once upon a time, there was, some time that you had to spend in school. I think it was 4 years. In 4 years, they would give instruction, education to a child that would prepare them for life. And in 4 years, they would come out of school and they would know how to read and write properly and how to do calculations properly. They also learned history, geography, geopolitics. They learned everything in 4 years. It's incredible. Nowadays, they have to spend most of their youth up until their early adulthood, until 20 plus years old, in school. Yeah, they are advised to go through 9 or 12 years in school, and they come out completely useless. Useless. People nowadays don't have any skills to fix anything. They don't have the situational awareness that the weather erodes things, destroys things. They don't have the awareness that things have an expiration date, and from time to time they need to be fixed. They need to be renewed. Whenever the weather destroys something, they think it's an anomaly. And they start repeating the mantra, climate change, climate change. The weather is changing, the weather is changing. They think it's an anomaly. It's incredible, the brainwashing. And everybody's waiting. The Ministry of Bananas. I just saw a meme and the title of the piece. I mean, I didn't read the article. The Ministry of Bananas was saying, we are going to hire, foreign people to fix the damage. That's what his solution, because there's nobody left in this country with the skills to do so. Everybody's been thoroughly educated through the system to become useless. They are all useless and 100% dependent on the corporations. They don't have the initiative. They don't have the self, agency to fix things themselves. They don't. They are waiting for their sugar daddy to do everything. And that's exactly what they wanted out of you, to be 100% dependent upon them. It's crazy. His solution, oh, we're going to hire migrants to do so, to fix everything. Oof. Okay. I've been talking for 25 minutes. All right. Have a nice day.